DMK is unlike any skincare company on Earth. Named after visionary founder Danae Montague King, DMK is committed to providing individualized products and treatment plans that heal skin on the cellular level, whether the condition concerns pigmentation, acne, inflammation, or signs of aging. DMK is home to the original enzyme mask, the game-changing formula that sends oxygenating, tightening, and exfoliating signals into the skin to enact changes in skin structures from the inside out. At DMK, we believe everyone deserves to feel the confidence that comes with healthy, beautiful skin. Learn more at DanaeMKing.com. That's DANNEM King.com. Enhance your practice and your income by discovering the transformative power of Celluma Light Therapy. Clinically proven and FDA cleared, Celluma's innovative LED technology addresses issues at the cellular level, promoting healing and rejuvenation. Whether for acne, aging skin, pain relief, hair restoration, or body contouring, Celluma Light Therapy delivers professional results in clinic or at home. Ready to help your clients feel their best? Visit Celluma.com and start your journey to becoming a Celluma professional today.
Hello and welcome to ASCP Esty Talk. I'm Ella Cressman, licensed esthetician, certified organic skincare formulator, international educator, and content contributor for Associated Skincare Professionals.
I am Maggie Staszcuk, licensed esthetician and ASCP's program director.
Hey, Maggie.
Hi, Ella.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling really good.
You are? How does your face feel?
It's feeling good.
Okay, good. And you might be like, why is she asking me these things? Listen, it's all in regard to today's topic. Do you want to know something creepy?
I want to know. I'm really excited for today.
Me too. Have you ever heard of zombie cells?
This is a new concept for me. I'm really excited to learn.
I know it's kind of something that when I dug a little deeper into this, I was like, ooh, creepy. Zombie cells are damaged cells that refused to die. And the thing is, they accumulate in your body as you age. They're not quite alive, they're not quite dead, but they stop multiplying and stop functioning normally. They never die off, just like a zombie. Ew, right?
Totally.
Instead, they just hang around and secrete toxic chemicals, which disrupts the function of other cells. No thank you. Sounds scary, right?
It really does, yeah.
Well, listeners, we have a treat for you. We are excited to welcome someone into the conversation, Dr. Linder. We can't wait to talk about these walking dead cells to help understand what they are, and most importantly, why we as skincare professionals need to understand more about them. Dr. Linder, if you haven't heard, she's many, many things. She's a board-certified dermatologist. She is a fellowship-trained skin cancer surgeon, a formerly trained biomedical engineer and chemist, previously was the chief science officer for PCA Skin. She's a published author, a speaker on dermatology, aesthetics, and cosmetic procedures, and the founder of Linder Health. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Linder.
Thank you for having me. This is quite fun. I love having a deep, nerdy discussion.
Yeah, and laughing along the way, right?
Oh my gosh. If you don't laugh, what are you doing in life, right? Like we all make mistakes. I always like to say the best way to learn is by making a mistake. And it's about getting back up again, right? That's all that matters.
Absolutely. So regarding these zombie cells, we know that they happen because something has gone awry. Do they all begin with telomeres? Tell me more.
Okay. Well, they're kind of actually two different topics, both of which are part of the aging process. So there was a beautiful paper released during COVID in 2021 that's called the 12 Hallmarks of Aging. And these are the common pathways that cells, whether or not they're your skin or any place else in your body, go through that we now believe are the causes for aging. Both telomere shortening as well as senescent cells growing out of control, our zombie cells, are two of those different hallmarks of aging. And all of these guys sort of interconnect. One has a role on the other. The telomere shortening has an actually effect on senescent cells building up, and both have effects on epigenetics and genetics. And it's all just like this one big ball of fun. but we like to tease out the different little bits so we can understand what's going on. And then using science and chemistry, we can actually figure out how can we reverse some of these things, help them so that we can actually potentially slow down aging or even reverse it.
Amazing. So there's two parts here, telomeres and senescent cells, you said. So let's start with telomeres, because it's a topic that I know that we've touched on previously as practitioners, but some maybe not be aware.
Right. Okay. So everybody understands that the DNA, the double helix, is basically the blueprint for all cells. Every cell has the double helix in it. And this double helix is replicated. Your cells naturally make a copy of it. And then a copy goes into each side of the cell, and then the cell splits in half. And that's actually how cells replicate. Well, on the ends of these little chromosomes, which is when it's all the DNA is kind of bundled up tight to make it easy to control it and manipulate and everything else, are these little caps called telomeres. And I like to think of them as being the caps on the end of a shoestring, right? If you've ever had shoestring cap fall off, the whole thing just frays and falls apart. Well, the same thing happens with DNA. If you don't have those telomere caps on the ends of the DNA strands, they would unravel, fall apart, and it's no longer functional. So the telomeres are there. Now, each time your cells replicate, a little bit of the telomere comes off. It loses a bit with each replication. So as we age, that happens faster. The body naturally can lengthen the telomeres, and things that we can do in life, healthy living, etc., can actually lengthen these telomeres as well. So one of the hallmarks of aging is believed to be that the telomeres are not either reproducing themselves or they break down faster and faster. Now, when that happens, it does have an effect on the production of senescent cells, which are those zombie cells, because it's all kind of interacting with each other.
So tell us a little bit about the senescent cells, the other factor, if I understand, in aging.
Yeah. So I love the introduction you did, because the easiest way to think about a senescent cell is a zombie cell, right? The reason why we talk about them being zombie cells is they keep using up resources. They're still taking energy. They're still taking food resources and everything else. And instead of being a healthy cell that can replicate, which is what our bodies need, every cell in our body is turned over every 2 years. In 2 years, you are a whole new physical person, which is kind of amazing. Just shows you how much replication is going on all the time. But with a senescent cell, that cell is using up all the resources, but it's not actually no longer replicating. It's just sitting there using up things and being dysfunctional, mean, grumpy old man, basically, right? Even worse, it's secreting this stuff called SASP. It's like wasp, but with an S on the front. And what that is senescence associated secretory proteins. So what that stuff does is it sends out little messages. It's the stuff that's secreted by a senescent cell, and it is pro-inflammatory. We're going to talk a lot about inflammation. That's kind of a through line here, is that it causes pro-inflammation. That stuff also makes our own immune system not work quite as well. And even worse, it triggers the surrounding cells around the senescent cell to turn into more zombie cells. So essentially what ends up happening is the zombie cell not only keeps using up resources and is essentially an undead cell, but it then turns the cells around it into more zombie cells. But the reason why it happens is when cells get to the end of their Hayflick limit, right? That's the number of cells a cell can usually turn over. It can become a senescent cell. If the telomeres are all used up, like we just talked about, it can become a senescent cell. If it is just not working quite right, it might turn into a senescent cell. Now, when we are in a healthy state of living, we're young, everything is working well, clicking along, your body is able, your natural immune system is able to get rid of those senescent cells. So, like when you were in good shape, you have an army that can kill the zombies. But unfortunately, as we age, and if inflammation starts taking over, and things just aren't working quite right, the army is no longer able to control the zombies, and the zombies end up winning. And when the zombies win, now you're actually in a bad place. And now you're sort of trickling down the more and more senescent cells. So that's why I like to say, essentially, aging is contagious, right? Because senescent cells are a big part of aging. And so because it's contagious, it sends out that SASP. It is contagious within your own body. Now, back to the question I asked myself, which was, why do we have this if this is sort of doesn't sound like necessarily a good thing? It can build up, it can cause aging. Well, as I mentioned, senescence is something that happens when cells aren't working quite right, or they're potentially replicating problematic things. Well, replicating cells that are replicating too quickly or aren't have errors in them is often what goes on to become cancer. So a tumor. So senescence is the body's way of turning off or killing off a bad cell that has the potential to become a cancerous cell. And then that's the reason why the senescent cells actually put out that SASP, the WASP stuff, because if you have a cancerous cell, chances are something happened so that the cells around it might also be cancerous. So it's a way of killing the cells around them before they become a chance to become cancer, or if they're starting to become cancer. So when you're young, and our bodies are designed to not only replicate ourselves, but hopefully replicate our species, you want to make sure we don't get cancer. And so it's the body's way of killing off bad cells and getting cancer potentially under control. It's one of the mechanisms of controlling cancer before it has a chance to start. So that's why it exists. But as we age, more senescent cells exist than our own immune system can take care of.
So an analogy might be to turn off the water so the weeds aren't getting what they need. But the consequence might be that in turning off the water, the longer the other areas are without water, they could suffer as well. So well-intended, right? Evolutionarily well-intended. But you have to keep an eye on it.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Elibana, Australian-born, globally loved. Elibana's story is simple. They love lashes and brows. They shoot for the stars and lift lashes to new heights. Their addiction is real, their passion is popping, and there is nothing more they crave than offering excellence, service, and innovation in products. Elibana Lash Lift allows you to offer your customers luscious, lifted lashes that can last up to 12 weeks in one safe 20-minute treatment. Learn more at elibana-usa.com. Ready to transform your skincare practice with joy and purpose? At Oncology Spa Solutions, our in-depth training courses are designed to elevate your career. Tailored for spa and medical professionals, our compassionate, science-based approach empowers you to safely care for clients with cancer. Master proper techniques, product choices, and adjustments needed to provide comfort, hope, and nurturing care on their healing journey. Enhance your skills, make a meaningful impact, and transform lives by becoming a trusted expert in oncology aesthetics. Learn more at oncologyspasolutions.com.
Okay, here we go. Let's get back to the podcast.
Now, you mentioned a lot about when we were younger and when our bodies are healthy. Now we live in a time where that health is compromised by many things, right? The environment, our lifestyles, just the amount of activity. Like when Maggie, we remember playing outside, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a lot different. The exposure to screens and just different. Kids grow up differently. But also, parallel, we have what we're doing as an industry to help this process of youth, or this perception of youth, right? Where we're encouraging a certain organ, because not all of us live healthy all the time. So we as practitioners are encouraging a certain organ, as staying within our licensure, to look healthy. And so we are pushing the skin. And then what we've seen is a rise in, whether it's lifestyle contributions or even over-treatment, a rise in inflammaging. Is there a relationship between telomeres, the senescent cells, and this inflammaging?
Absolutely. And it comes back to that 12 hallmarks of aging and how they all interact with each other. And inflammation is one of the 12. So much like we were talking about with senescence, a little bit is good, a lot is bad. inflammation is the same way. So inflammation exists as a concept, as a way of wound healing, of your immune cells being able to go in, attack something, kill it off. As a result of that, cytokines and all these other things are released. So a little bit is good, but like many things, a lot is not. And inflammation is one of those things. And so one of the things that's really happened in the field of medicine is understanding that in general, inflammation, not a good thing, right? So we're trying to control inflammation across many different organ systems. And because skin is what the three of us do and what our listeners do, that's something we want to control in the skin as well. So the way I like to think about it is, we used to, when we were trying to think about rejuvenation, it's like you see a hammer, you see a nail and you hit it with a hammer, right? But you can also do more damage around it. You sort of can do too much.
Especially if you're me and your thumb is nearby.
Yeah, your thumb is nearby, right? So we want to
me.
be, on the analogy, we want to be more finesse. We want to have just a little teeny nail with a teeny tiny little tap, 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 like eyeliner, better fine line than if you do a big pencil and smear it all over your eye, right? So same with this, we want to control it. And so when we used to do, even back, so I did my dermatology training in the early 90s to give you perspective, and early aughts. And more is better, like big lasers. I did a laser fellowship as well. Bigger the better. We take everything off. Peels, same thing, right? You're turning, burn it, right? If you're burning it, you're triggering rejuvenation. And yes, that can happen. And you can get lucky that you thread the needle and you have beautiful results, but you can also have ill consequences. And the way I like to think about it now is it's a possibility using what we've learned about the science of acids and alpha hydroxy acids, that we can actually trigger the cells to do what we want them to do in terms of controlling senescence, controlling cell turnover, controlling epidermal growth factors, cytokines, cell signaling, without having to do as much in terms of wound healing responses. So I've really switched the way I think about things. I no longer really use TCA because TCA is a natural cauterant, right? It's the reason why when you put TCA on the skin, you get sort of different amounts of whitening, right? That whitening is the protein coagulation. It's basically the cells, you're killing off cells. And so the way we used to use it was controlling how much we do, right? The same things with Jesner's peel, phenol peels, any of the things we used to do. And so now we know we can do it, get to the same endpoint, sort of using a different pathway in terms of controlling the inflammation. And that's because across the board, we know inflammation really is responsible for aging in multiple different ways. It's associated with Parkinson's, diabetes, Alzheimer's, heart disease, lung disease, all these different things. And so when you carry that through line to the skin, we understand now we don't need to trigger as much inflammation to get the kind of rejuvenation that we wanted. We don't have to do aggressive wound healing to get there.
From an esthetician's perspective, or their role, I should say, in treating senescent cells and targeting aging, or I should say to target inflammaging and to achieve, this radiant, healthy skin that all the clients are requesting, what should they be doing to prevent these zombie cells? You have mentioned some of these more aggressive treatments that really less is more anymore these days. That's kind of the trend we're seeing. What would you say is their best approach?
So the coolest thing that came out is that chemical peels with the right pH and the right percentages can actually control inflammation and kill senescent cells. They're actually senolytic. So these things that we've been doing for a long period of time are actually beneficial. Now, the key is getting it at the right pH, because what was found is there is a sweet spot. So all these years where we've been thinking, let's go lower pHs. If it's lower, it's going to trigger more. You're going to have more turnover. It's going to be good. We now know it's not just about the cell turnover, because think about it with cell turnover. If you're going deeper, you're actually getting more inflammation, right? It's the wound healing response. Instead, if you have it in a pH between 3 and 3.5, alpha hydroxy acids have actually been shown to be senolytic, which means they are killing the senescent cells. So those more what we used to think about as being superficial chemical peels are actually going after the senescent cells. Now we talked, that perspective where we talked about superficial, medium, deep, whatever, was about the cell turnover and how deep the peel was going. But we know now that you're also doing cell signaling, and you can use ingredients to actually get other ingredients to go deeper. So you're not having to lift, you're not having to have the potential damage by going deeper to get to the level that you're actually triggering the response in the senescent cells, both in the epidermis and the dermis.
Dr. Linder, you mentioned AHAs specifically. Are those the chemical peels specifically targeting senescent cells at that pH of 3.0, or are there other peels as well?
There might be other peels as well, but what I can say is the data I've seen in terms of the papers were specifically on AHAs. So salicylic acid is naturally, which is our beta hydroxy acid, as you guys know, is naturally an anti-inflammatory. That's why, as you know, aspirin has salicylic acid in it. So that's one of the glories of salicylic acid, is the fact that it is an anti-inflammatory. So it kind of, the way I see it, it at least does things in other ways, which is often the reason why I like to add salicylic acid to peels when I'm doing product development. You don't have to do too high a percentage. I think that's a mistake people make, because then it just precipitates out. You end up with salt in the skin, and that's what that little dusty white is that you sometimes see. So, but alpha hydroxy acids are the ones that do the best job and have the data behind them. And then I specifically, or especially, like lactic acid, because it is the addition of being both able to kill the zombie cells, and it's also been shown to be beneficial to mitochondrial health. And that's another one of the 12 hallmarks of aging, is that the mitochondria isn't functioning to the degree that we want it to. And so the fact that by adding lactic acid, you could sort of actually improve the health of the mitochondria as well. And then you guys probably already know lactic acid. The reason why I love it as a chemical peeling agent is lactic acid is part of the natural moisturizing factor of the skin. It's part of the natural sponge inside the skin. So it gets in there and actually does more in terms of hydration. So especially if somebody has dehydrated skin, lactic acid, great go-to. I always like to point out, because there hasn't been that much research and change shown in the field of chemical peels in like practically 50 years, when Max Jesner put out the Jesner's peel. And then, phenol peel goes back even further. And then glycolic acid peels got, super hot in the 90s. But I really think about all those things as sort of being old school. And the reason why glycolic acid, great alpha hydroxy acid, we know it does wonderful things. But the reason why it stings is because it's such a small molecule. It's a little teeny sugar molecule. It gets absorbed very quickly through the skin, which means it gets to the nerves quickly, which is the reason why it stings. Also, you'd either have to buffer it or you have to wash it off or time it. There's lots of different ways, lots of different companies and producers manufacture it different ways. But because it's so small, it does have a tendency to dehydrate the skin. So I really do not recommend glycolic acid peels in mature skin. For me, glycolic acid, I reserve for patients that have oily prone or acneic skin. But glycolic acid is obviously one of those alpha hydroxy acids. So it is going to be senolytic. It's just about which one do you choose. As you guys know, there's lots of cool alpha hydroxy acids, mandelic, when there's a list of 10 and 20, as you guys know, but all the different wonderful fruit acids.
I've been enjoying not just alpha and beta hydroxy acids, but exploring other carboxylic acids. It's been fun too. So
yes, absolutely.
It's a really exciting time to be a practitioner in the world, because now we have more understanding of this balance. And I was thinking of another analogy. When I was younger, I used to listen to music full blast. The louder, the better. Then in my era, it was bass. So the more bass, the better the songs. And now I am that meme that I have to turn the music down so I can see better where I'm going. So I think it's similar here is earlier on in my career, it was louder, more volume, deeper peeling. And now we understand better the importance of appropriate instigation, I guess, poking, or the just the right amount of stimulation is going to be key.
Yep, Goldilocks was right.
Yeah, just enough. Well, Dr. Linder, we want to thank you again for joining us. It was a fun conversation to have. Looking forward to having you back again sometime. And listeners, we really want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on zombie cells? Reach out via Instagram or Facebook, or send us an email at getconnected@ascpskincare.com. We want to know all the details. In the meantime, thank you for listening to ASCP Esty Talk. For more information on Dr. Linder or this episode, or for ways to connect with Maggie or myself, check out the show notes and stay tuned for the next episode of ASCP Esty Talk.
Are you interested in providing results-driven treatment services? Join a team of like-minded individuals who share your passion and support your success. With more than 1,000 franchised locations in 49 states, Massage Envy is not only the nation's #1 provider of massage services collectively across its franchise network, but also a national leader in skincare. Start or grow your career at a Massage Envy franchised location. Visit massageenvy.com/SDcareers for full details.